Psalm 23, attributed to King David, is a well-loved biblical passage often called the Shepherd's Psalm. It beautifully depicts God as a caring shepherd watching over his people, using imagery that was familiar to the ancient Israelites. Our research provides a detailed and thoughtful analysis of Psalm 23, highlighting its interpretation within the rich context of ancient Hebrew thought from around 1000 BCE during the Iron Age in Israel. The study is based on the original Hebrew text, considering the cultural background and theological importance, while making sure to avoid influence from later traditions like Greek philosophy, early Church Fathers' teachings, or Roman Church orthodoxy.
In ancient Israel, shepherds were essential members of society. They closely cared for their flocks, protected them from dangers, and guided them to good grazing spots and water. This caring role helps shape the beautiful metaphors in the psalm, highlighting a deep personal relationship with Yahweh. The language used is poetic, drawing from everyday life to share spiritual truths, something that is very typical of ancient Hebrew poetry.
Take a moment to enjoy this paraphrase of Psalm 23, beautifully expressed through ancient Hebrew thought imagery. It's a wonderful way to see this timeless message from a fresh, evocative perspective. Yahweh is my shepherd. I lack nothing. In meadows of tender grass, he makes me rest. By waters of tranquility, he leads me. He revives my being. He guides me along the well-trodden paths of justice for the sake of his name. Even when I walk through the deepest gorge, overshadowed by death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your rod for defense and your staff for guidance, they comfort me. You set a feast before me in the sight of my foes. You have lavishly anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows with abundance. Truly, goodness and steadfast love will chase after me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the presence of Yahweh for as long as I live.
Let's start our detailed look at each verse, including language and cultural insights, beginning with verse 1. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want.
Yahweh, the personal name of God, emphasizing his covenantal relationship with Israel.
Roi, from Ra'ah, meaning to pasture or to tend. In ancient Israel, shepherds were protectors, providers, and companions, often spending days away from the family camp, reflecting an intimate bond. The root also connects to Reah, friend, suggesting God as a close companion.
Lo exar, I shall not lack, from chasar, meaning to lack or to need. This indicates God's provision ensures no deficiency, contrasting with philosophies like Buddhism that might focus on absence of desire.
A cultural insight is that shepherds in ancient Israel cared deeply for their flocks, a task David, who was a shepherd himself, knew very well. This beautiful metaphor shows Yahweh's personal and caring nature, perfectly reflecting the close relationship outlined in the covenant.
Insights in verse 2. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters.
Bino Deshi, green pastures, where Deshi means tender grass or fresh growth, symbolizing abundance. Bina, from Na, means pleasant place or habitation, suggesting a good, lasting place to stay.
Yarbitseni, from Rabbats, meaning to lie down or stretch out, implying a state of rest and safety, free from fear.
Mayim menucho, still waters or waters of rest, with menucho meaning resting place, linked to comfort and refreshment, possibly echoing Isaiah 8:6's gently flowing waters.
A cultural insight is that finding green pastures and still waters was vital for the flock's survival. This highlights the shepherd's important role in guiding the flock to safe, nourishing places, much like how Yahweh guides us toward peace and provision.
Insights in verse 3. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake.
Nafshi, my life or my vitality, referring to the whole being, the essence of life.
Yeshovev, from shove, meaning to turn back or return, suggesting restoration to an original state, possibly echoing creation.
B'ma'agle tzedek, in paths of righteousness, where ma'agle means circular paths or tracks, implying well-trodden ways, and tzedek means righteousness or justice, aligning with God's character.
Laman Shemo, for his name's sake, referring to Yahweh's reputation and character, ensuring actions reflect his nature.
A cultural insight is that righteousness in ancient Hebrew thought was living in alignment with Yahweh's order, not just moral uprightness, reflecting the shepherd's guidance along safe paths.
Insights in verse 4. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me.
Gate Salmavet, Valley of the Shadow of Death, a place of darkness and danger, possibly a named gorge, symbolizing life's challenges.
Lo irai ra, I will fear no evil, expressing confidence with ra, meaning bad or unpleasant.
Shivtecha umish antecha, your rod and your staff, where shibet is for defense and mish'ena for guidance, offering comfort.
A cultural insight is that the shepherd's tools were essential for protection and guidance, reflecting Yahweh's presence in perilous situations, a common experience for ancient Israelites.
Insights in verse 5. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows.
Shulchan, table, symbolizing provision and honor, possibly seen as an altar in Jewish thought.
Negtazarai, in the presence of my enemies, indicating Yahweh's care amidst adversity.
Deshanta Bashaman, you anoint with oil, likely olive oil, a sign of blessing and honor.
Kosi Ravaya, my cup overflows, from Rava, meaning abundance and satisfaction.
A cultural insight is that anointing was a gesture of honor, often for kings or in divine favor, reflecting Yahweh's generosity beyond need, a significant concept in ancient Hebrew culture.
The beautiful assurance in verse 6, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever, reminds us of the constant presence of divine love and grace guiding us through every moment.
Tov v'chesed, goodness and mercy, where Tov means good and chesed means loving kindness or faithfulness, actively pursuing the follower.
Yerdfuni, from Radaf, meaning to pursue, suggesting Yahweh's blessings chase after the psalmist.
Bevet Yahweh, in the house of the Lord, symbolizing Yahweh's presence.
Lorek Yamim, for length of days, implying a long life or eternity, reflecting hope for communion with Yahweh.
A cultural insight is that living in Yahweh's house highlights the deep desire of the ancient Israelites to be close to Yahweh, whether through the tabernacle, the temple, or his presence even during camp times. It also shows their pursuit of goodness and mercy, which emphasizes Yahweh's active role in blessing their lives.
Hopefully, our work here has provided an insightful look into Psalm 23 that is both edifying and appreciative of this wonderful psalm. If you, listeners, have areas of interest you'd like to explore further, questions or comments, please don't hesitate to let us know.